Welcome back to CBSN. I'm Tony DeCopel. After pledging to repeal and replace Obamacare for 7 years, congressional Republicans abandoned their largest effort yet on Friday. Facing defeat, former House Speaker Paul Ryan decided to pull the American Health Care Act from consideration. The White House says it will move on as some Republicans go back to the drawing board to create a more widely accepted bill. But President Trump and Ryan agree today was a big disappointment.
I will not sugarcoat this. This is a disappointing day for us. Doing big things is hard. All of us, myself included, we will need time to reflect on how we got to this moment, what we could have done to do it better. But ultimately, this all kind of comes down to a choice. Are all of us willing to give a little to get something done? The president gave his all in this effort. He did everything he possibly could to help people see the opportunity that we have with this bill. He's really been fantastic. Still, we got to do better, and we will. I absolutely believe that. This is a setback, no two ways about it.
And I think the losers are Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, because now they own Obamacare. They own it, 100% own it. And this is not a Republican health care. This is not anything but a Democrat health care. And they have Obamacare for a little while longer until it ceases to exist, which it will at some point in the near future. And just remember, this is not our bill, this is their bill. I think you know I was very clear, because I think there wasn't a speech I made, or very few, where I didn't mention that perhaps the best thing that could happen is exactly what happened today, because we'll end up with a truly great health care bill in the future after this mess known as Obamacare explodes. So.
Now I want to bring in Washington Post congressional reporter Ed O'Keefe on Capitol Hill and political White House reporter Tara Palmeri in our Washington bureau. Tara, in my introduction, I mistakenly called Paul Ryan former House Speaker. With the way things are going, is he heading in the direction of former?
That could be something. I mean, we've been hearing rumblings of that for the past week or so. Actually, the fact that the House Freedom Caucus wouldn't even speak to him for 2 weeks. Obviously, he's having a hard time corralling the party and keeping them all in check. I mean, they're really acting like they're still an opposition party instead of acting like they have the House now. A lot of these members don't really know what it's like. They're newer members. They don't know what it's like to have a Republican in office and to have the Congress and Senate be Republican. So it could happen. I've heard some, talk of some members actually drafting the note to, I guess it's to withdraw the speaker. So we shall see, but this is definitely an embarrassment for him. And within the White House, a senior White House official said to me, this is 100% Ryan's fault.
Wow. And Ed, one of my favorite portions of President Trump's remarks is when he said, we learned a lot today about loyalty. We learned a lot today about vote counting. Now, that is Paul Ryan's department, I believe. So why not blame Paul Ryan on this front? What do you think?
Well, I think there's going to be blame for everyone on this one, and the White House is pushing this idea that it is Ryan's fault. Yes, it is his team that is responsible for finding the votes. I think what Trump learned today is what Ryan and his leadership lieutenants have known for quite a while, as Tara alluded to. These are folks who are not used to being in power, not used to being held accountable for their votes. They're used to spending the last 7 years talking about undoing something and not thinking seriously about the consequences of that. In the last 10 days or so, they've been presented with the consequences in the form of budget estimates that found that 24 million people might lose their health care, that this would cost a lot of money, that changes would mean taking away benefits from voters who head to the polls next year at a time when the president, at least for now, is very unpopular. This was an uncomfortable thing. The speaker saying there that we need to work together and make some tough decisions, he's been saying that since the beginning of the year. It didn't resonate. And the persuasion that the president tried to use with hundreds of members, Sean Spicer said today 120 members of the House Republican Conference were contacted by the president over the course of the lobbying effort, plus the inability of the House Republican leadership team to put this together. I think there's plenty of blame to go around.
Yeah, Tara, when speaking about the efforts behind the scenes, the White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer had this to say. We'll catch up on the other side.
There's no question, in my mind at least, that the president and the team have left everything on the field. We have called every member that had a question or a concern tried to the extent possible, take into consideration ideas that would strengthen the bill.
On Spicer, they're suggesting that they made a concerted effort to call every member, take every question. That is a much more congenial portrayal of events than the take it or leave it that we heard from President Trump. So it begs the question, did the president really do all he could to get this bill passed, or did he always want Democrats to, quote, own it in the end?
It's a very good question. I mean, a lot of the complaints that we heard in our reporting was that the president was very heavy-handed in his negotiating, and it was very much, touting his own popularity in those districts and alluding to the fact that he would, support primary challengers and that it would make that member unpopular in their own district if they went against him. Also, what I heard from some of the members that I spoke to was that he actually didn't really know much about the policy of the bill. He really was sort of saying, take it or leave it, but he didn't realize that it was the policy that was unpopular, and he couldn't really negotiate on those issues because he didn't know them well enough. I was told one interaction between Trump and Speaker Paul Ryan in the beginning when they were going over the health bill. Trump said he really didn't like it when Ryan would use the words buckets to describe the phases of the health care bill. He's like, buckets, that's for trash. You throw trash in buckets. You could tell from that interaction that he really cared more about the marketing of the bill than the actual policy and the nitty-gritty that actually came down to the reason why there were more no votes.
He's very much he's a transactional leader, that's for sure. Now,
exactly.
Ed, former House Speaker John Boehner, of course, prone to crying, son of a barkeep. I think a lot of people remember him quite fondly these days. He predicted this basically. Back in February, he said a repeal and replace will not happen, and that the GOP is, quote, basically going to fix the flaws and put a more conservative box around it. Did he predict it? What do you make of that?
No, the broader point that Boehner has made in the past is that over the quarter century that he spent up here on Capitol Hill, Republicans could never come to an agreement on a plan to revamp the nation's healthcare system. So why on earth was it going to happen in the first 64 days of Donald Trump's presidency? And I think that prediction and that experience was proven true yet again, that this is a very difficult thing. Democrats have been hanging back, watching all this, kind of just shaking their head going, we told you so. We worked on this for decades. It started for us in the 1970s. It took us, actually no, it started back in the 1940s with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It picked up steam in the 70s, and it took until 2010 to get it done. Yes, they've had problems with it. The president suggesting that Democrats now own this? No. Democrats have owned this since 2010. Look at the results of the 2010 midterm elections, what happened in 2012, 2014, and 2016. Their ranks up here are depleted. A lot of the reason is because of Obamacare. But Republicans now are going to begin to realize that, and we'll see whether Democrats are able from a defensive position now to defend the law, push back against the president's accusations tonight that it's their fault for this not happening. We got plenty of evidence of Democrats up here willing, eager, and ready to work with Republicans on some kind of a plan. They've been putting them out. Republicans never picked up the phone and called them. The president never asked them for their ideas. There's plenty of evidence of that, and I suspect we're going to see that very soon from them. The idea that the president says it's their fault, no, they'll say, we've been standing by ready to work with him, and he never asked.
Ed O'Keefe on Capitol Hill and Tara Palmeri in Washington, covering the healthcare debacle. It's becoming borderline unhealthy. I think I'm losing my own health just talking about it. Thank you both very much. I appreciate it.